Welcome to the Policy Project and Task Force Office's Slide Document Design Training. In this course, we'll teach you some of the fundamentals of design and how we in the Project Office use PowerPoint to create compelling policy products with a good balance of text and visual elements. We hope to help you become more effective policy communicators. We don't expect you to become graphic designers. Today, we'll teach you some of the key ways to develop engaging slide documents to effectively communicate your policy advice to ministers and other senior decision makers. By the end, you should have a better idea of how to apply design principles and Microsoft PowerPoint tools to bring your creative ideas to life. Traditional documents are typically text-heavy with limited use of images and graphics. They're usually intended to read by yourself and to provide detailed information to inform decision-making. PowerPoint presentations, on the other hand, generally have limited text and greater focus on images and graphics, with the detail provided verbally by a presenter. They are designed to be visually engaging and can be used as the basis for group discussions. Slide documents combine elements of both traditional documents and presentations, with in-depth information and visuals to support key points. A program like PowerPoint also allows more design flexibility. Slide documents, or slide docs, are often intended to be read solo in advance of group discussions and decision-making. So why use a slide document for policy communication? The first reason is to force clarity. Dense, convoluted text can obscure weak arguments and leaps of logic. We follow a practice of limiting ourselves in a slide document to one main idea per page. As an author, this forces you to boil the information down to your key messages, ideally backed up with killer facts or evidence. The second reason is to be understood quickly. If you have one idea per page and a clear narrative structure, it's much easier for the reader to grasp the point you're trying to make. Visual elements like icons, graphics, or charts can also help you get your information across quickly and clearly. Thirdly, it's more persuasive. The combination of the first two factors makes your case more persuasive. And like with any written product, a carefully designed, professional-looking document will look more credible than one filled with formatting problems and typos. And finally, slide documents support better decision-making. Senior decision-makers are bombarded with huge amounts of information. By leading the reader through the key messages, evidence, and logic, slide documents help ensure that subsequent conversations focus on the issues that matter, increasing the chance of well-informed decision-making. In this section, we will run through some basic design principles. These design principles are founded in psychology and human behaviour. They are the rules a designer follows to create an effective and attractive composition and a better, more consistent experience for their users. There are 5 fundamental principles, also known as the building blocks of good design. These are Gestalt, Unity, Hierarchy, Balance, and Similarity, and each of these guide the decisions you make as you're working on a project. Then we have the 4 design elements known as the bare essentials, the absolutely necessary elements that are used to build on the design for successful communication. These bare essentials are known as scale, contrast, space, and alignment. So what is good design? A good design is effective and efficient in fulfilling its purpose. A good design is always the simplest possible working solution, and a good design is long-lasting. Our first fundamental design principle is Gestalt. It's a German word meaning essence or shape of entity's complete form. Drawn from psychology, Gestalt refers to our tendency to perceive the sum of all parts as opposed to the individual elements. Essentially, when composing a design, consider how the individual elements appear to the viewer as a whole. You can leverage this to convey a message or story to the viewer. In this example, the Dendy logo doesn't actually have the E and the second D written. Their form is merely suggested through the use of shapes. Despite that, we still see the word Dendy when we look at the design as a whole. The graphic on the right-hand side shows how you can apply the Gestalt principle to increase the coherence of your slide document. Despite one section being clearly distinct from the other, we still perceive the 2 sections as a complete whole. Without that distinction, the design as a whole looks weaker and somewhat incomplete. Unity, our second fundamental design principle, refers to a sense of harmony between all elements within a design. Unity can be achieved primarily through consistency of elements throughout a design, with colour, type, style, placement and shape. Consistency brings together individual elements in harmony. The example infographic here uses the same illustrative style, complementary colours that suit the Disney theme, consistent fonts and an engaging layout to unite the individual elements into a compelling visual work. The placement and arrangement of objects creates an ordered, logical design that is pleasing to the eye. Random placement of objects leads to a cluttered, unkempt look that makes it difficult for viewers to engage with. Hierarchy or hierarchical organisation, the third fundamental design principle, is used to visually express the relative importance of different elements, usually through colour and size. A hierarchy helps to make a layout clear, unambiguous and easier to digest. Music festival posters are excellent examples of hierarchy. Headline acts receive prominence through placement and size, while other acts receive progressively less prominence. A good hierarchy guides the viewer by using scale and layout to break up the content. Poor hierarchy means various elements compete for attention, which makes it harder for viewers to understand the key messages. The fourth fundamental design principle, balance, is the deliberate distribution of objects within a space. This can be either symmetrical, where elements are balanced or mirrored within a space, or asymmetrical, where elements are contrasted. Both approaches can achieve balance, but shape the message of the content in different ways. Symmetry conveys calmness and stability, while asymmetry conveys dynamism and interest. This poster uses symmetry and balance to compare Disney World and Disneyland. It's easy to see at a glance how the two differ. A balanced layout creates focus and unity, with symmetry conveying order and professionalism. A deliberately unbalanced layout can be used to draw attention to a key message, like the square on the right. Similarity is our final fundamental design principle. Elements that are similar are perceived to be more related than elements that are dissimilar. We use similarity to indicate relatedness among elements in a design through the use of colour, shape, size or positioning to create grouping effects. In this infographic, similarity is used through colour to group movies by year. The overall effect is further enhanced with similarity in movie logos, each being white versions of the logo. Applying this principle helps drive key points home by uniting. In this way, visual impact strengthens the narrative. Dissimilarity creates confusion and disorder, weakening the effectiveness of your content. Beyond these principles, we always keep in mind 4 absolutely necessary design elements, our so-called bare essentials. The first of these is scale. Scale describes the relative sizes of the elements in a design. You can emphasize an element by using scale to make an element larger than others. Not only can you make it stand out this way, but you can also use scale to create a sense of depth, since nearer objects appear larger to the human eye. Exaggerated scales of images also add a certain level of interest and drama to them. Through the use of scale, this graphic creates a compelling picture of the size of the mobile market. By clustering objects of different scale together, the viewer is drawn in to engage with the content. Scale can be a powerful tool for conveying quantitative information, like comparisons between numbers. If you don't pay attention to scale, you can confuse or mislead the reader. Our second design bare essential is contrast. Contrast is used to make an element stand out by manipulating differences in colour, value, size, and other factors. Movie posters often use contrast for dramatic effect. This poster commands attention by drawing the viewer's eye to the key focal point, after which they're able to engage with the rest of the poster. Draw attention to critical points by leveraging contrast to make them stand out. Also, apply contrast strategically. Too many competing contrasting elements will dilute its impact. The third design bare essential is space. Don't underestimate the impact of space. The open space surrounding a design element helps to direct hierarchy. Often referred to as the lungs of good design, white space provides breathing room to various design elements. Beyond creating a clean and uncluttered layout, white space can also be used strategically to highlight the importance of an idea or concept. In this example, the movie title may be small, but the clever use of space makes this simple poster a commanding promotion for the movie Godzilla. Clear and compelling content should be supported by white space that drives focus to your key messages. Density severely limits the impact of key messages, and the lack of white space can leave the viewer feeling overwhelmed. Our final bare essential design element is alignment. Elements are placed so that edges align over common rows or columns, or along a common centre. This creates a sense of unity and cohesion, which contributes to the design's overall aesthetic and perceived stability. Alignment can also help lead a person through a design. Although the graphics in these examples are busy, good alignment ensures they are still easy to understand and engage with. Aligning objects within a slide creates a tidy, professional design. A lack of alignment is frustrating and jarring for the viewer and leaves the design looking sloppy and unpolished.
In this next section, we'll discuss how we in the project office use visual elements to communicate policy advice effectively. You can apply the principles, tools and techniques to create a wide range of products to support policy communication, including slide documents, timelines, roadmaps and placemats. You should take the needs of your audience into account when considering the type of product you need to develop. For example, if you need to support a group discussion on a particular topic, you might want to consider an A3 placemat. These are a good alternative to a slide document as they're easy to engage with in a group setting. Placemats are single-page documents that bring together key messages and critical information to tell a story. They can include visually compelling graphs, figures and diagrams. If you need a decision maker to engage in depth on a topic to make a decision, you might want to use a slide document, which allows for solo reading at the reader's own pace. Slide documents use text combined with visual elements to deliver key messages, structured in a compelling narrative to support recommendations backed up by references. Don't forget to consider accessibility requirements. Governments are often legally required to comply with international standards for accessibility. If your product's accessible, it means that anyone should be able to engage with it without modification or difficulty. To take one example from our experience, your decision maker could be colourblind. Consider how that would impact on their ability to access the key messages and infographics. Other tips you might want to consider include using high contrast colours and adding alternative text or images, graphs, figures and diagrams to describe visual elements that screen reading software will read out to the user. Your comms team should be able to provide you with more detailed guidance on making your products accessible, especially if it's being externally published. Take care also with copyright of images. We use narrative to help plan out our documents and make our arguments clear and compelling. A traditional story structure takes readers on a journey. A strong storyline can help provide a sense of structure and logic to support your advice and recommendations, helping your audience arrive at a decision that feels sensible, informed and transparent. Think about your key messages using the situation, complication, resolution framework. A situation in this sense is what's happening now. It's an unbiased view of the current conditions. The complication is the challenge ahead. You should use data to back this up. And the resolution is the advice or proposal or solution that meets the challenges as you've set them out. Again, make sure you have evidence to back up your recommendation. We find that storyboarding is a great way to plan your key messages out in a narrative format, and we've provided an example on this slide. A storyboard provides the basic structure of your slide deck or guides the layout of your placemat. A clear plan helps to ensure your reader can follow the argument and understand your proposed recommendations. You can also use the storyboard to help you ensure that you have sufficient evidence to back up each of your assertions. A clear structure makes your argument easier to grasp and more compelling. We usually begin by coming up with a short, strong and clear message about what the slide will be about. You might have already done this during your storyboarding phase. This short, sharp message is the lead-in. Keep it to 2 lines. A suggested rule of thumb is that the lead-in should provide enough information that if someone only has the time to flick through your slide document and read the lead-ins, they'd still be able to understand the overall message. Then you should think about how you would like your information to be presented on the page, including the killer facts or evidence to support your claims. Is there a lot of data and information? Does it need a graph? Would it work best to separate the text into different boxes and colour code them, as in the example here? Adding icons to tell more of the message will add more interest to the slide. You should also think about the key points that need to be illustrated and try to highlight these. Colour is one of the most valuable tools, and as you see on this slide example, colour has been used to effectively link the text with its associated icon. Here's an example of an infographic that can help make the information easier to grasp. In this slide, your eye is first drawn to the title of the infographic, that is, the bolded text inside the circular diagram. From there, your eyes would tend to go to the next eye-catching item, which in this case would be the smaller circles with the icons. As each of these icons are the same brightness and the same distance apart, the effect should be that you perceive them as being on the same level of hierarchy as each other. So from here, naturally the reader is drawn to the top or right and reads in a clockwise direction. In this slide, colour has also been used to clearly link the information with the relevant icons. An infographic should be both engaging and stimulating. As you can see in these two examples, when used correctly, images can present information very quickly and clearly. So where possible, try and use visuals in place of text. Visual information processes faster in the brain and lasts longer as a memory. In these examples, infographics have been used to help create an engaging piece of work using a collection of imagery, icons, and minimal text. The key points have been extracted from the text and replaced with icons. We've used colour and followed some simple design principles. The information is now communicated more quickly, clearly, and more memorably. There are 4 key principles to follow to make sure your infographic is well presented. First, make sure your image is clear and concise and that it tells the message you want it to. Second, make sure the information is relevant and the key points are highlighted. Include short paragraphs of text to help guide the reader through the infographics, making sure to keep the text brief and to the point. Third, structure your slides so that it's easy to read your information. Think about the direction you'd like the text to flow. Do you think the information will work best if read from left to right or top to bottom? Look at your key points and see if you can find imagery that can capture most of what you're trying to say. Now use the grid to position the imagery and text to form a smooth starting and end point. Finally, you want your design to be pleasant to look at. The reader will be more likely to engage and take in the information this way. Here's another example of an engaging design. The key information is highlighted using icons and colour, capturing the viewer's attention very quickly. Have a think about where your eyes look first in this example. Is it the bold numbers in the coloured circles? Is it the icons? Perhaps it's the text on either the left or the right side. Thinking about the placement of your key information so that the user is drawn to it first is very important. This will then create a starting point for you to think about how best to create a flow for the rest of the slide. The flow in this example is from left to right. The eyes get drawn to the bold colour and thick font before moving on to the smaller headings and icons. The text in the centre links the two sides of the information together and creates a flow that guides the reader to the right side of the slide. Applying the design principles will help guide you to an attractive and engaging design. Here's an example of a slide using both text and visuals. What's your first impression of this slide? Does it look engaging and make you want to read it? Or is there too much text? Are the icons relevant to the information? Do the key points jump out at you? We're going to have a try at this slide again, making a few alterations to make it a bit more user-friendly and engaging. This is a reconfigured version of the same slide. It contains the same information, but presented in a way intended to be more engaging. The colour pop invites the user to engage with the slide. The level of gradient up to the top of the slide tells us that all 4 squares of information are connected. The darkest of the gradient in most cases is the starting point. The key points, the percentage figures, have been highlighted in bold and the type has been enlarged to show its importance. Icons related to the key ideas have been added. The flow of the whole slide itself is a more natural left to right rather than from top to bottom. Although there's still quite a lot of text on this page, it's less obvious with the coloured text boxes and large white spacing in between. We recommend that you work on the design of your slide using a grid. A grid will help keep the text boxes and imagery in good alignment and with good spacing. It will also help manage the size and quantity of your content. In the project office, we use a 12-column grid that's been designed to give us a lot of freedom to move text and objects around, while still keeping them all aligned and uniform with one another. This slide is an example of how you can use a map to convey a lot of detailed information. As you can see in this example, we've used colour to highlight key information for each country. The arrows that point to countries are kept in a horizontal or vertical line rather than a diagonal to keep the slide from looking too busy and make it easier to follow. Here's another example of using a map to convey complex information. The key on the top right is a crucial part of the picture, so it needs to be clearly labelled and easy to find. For this example, each colour in the key is linked to the different types of information in each coloured circle on the map. The sizing of each coloured circle shows the scale of that information. The icons help to link the information with the colour. This is an example of a placemat. Like slide documents, placemats combine a structured, logical narrative with evidence and visual elements to convey key messages for decision makers, but on a single page, generally A3. Placemats are being used increasingly in cabinet and committee meetings, and when done well, can be every bit or more influential for decision making than a submission or a brief. Because they're a single page, placemats work well for facilitating group discussion and for getting a busy executive or minister to engage with information quickly. You can apply the same narrative structure and design principles that we've covered here when developing a placemat. We've also developed a handy guide for you which you can download from the Project Office's intranet page.
Finally, in this module, we're going to show you some tips and tricks of how we work in PowerPoint to develop our slide docs. The Home tab is the default tab used to perform many of the common tasks in PowerPoint. It includes the essentials, such as changing fonts, cutting and pasting text and images, drawing objects, and editing text. The Insert tab is an expansion on some of the functions of the Home tab, adding in other elements such as tables, charts, smart art, text boxes, and headers and footers. This tab can also be used to add comments, similar to the comments feature in Microsoft Word, which is useful in a collaborative environment such as the Project Office, where we often have multiple authors working on the same slide document at one time. Let's now take a look at the Design tab. Slides default to presenting on screen. If you need to change the slide size for print, you can select a custom size under the Slide Size drop-down menu. In the Project Office, we have already set up our slide document to default to A4 and developed our own look and feel so our policy writers can focus their energy on developing the content. Microsoft have added a number of themes and colour variants that can be selected if you are developing something outside of the Project Office norm. We'll skip over the Transition, Animation, and the Slideshow tabs as we don't use these options in the Project Office. The Review tab provides more options for using the comments function. The View tab is where you'll find tools to edit the slide master to set up a master template. Elements have already been designed for the Project Office, but it can be useful to understand how the slide master works, which we'll go into in more detail in this section. Other view options can be activated here, such as rulers and guides. The Format tab is hidden until an object is selected. This allows for options such as changing the shape by selecting the Edit Shape option, Change Shape, and then selecting a new shape. You can also change the colour fill and outline of a shape, as well as the text colour. There are also options available here to do with arrangement. We'll go into further detail of how alignment works in a later section. Slide Master is an important function of PowerPoint because it enables you to create unique templates for your specific needs. Slide Master View allows you to make elements of your slides consistent across all slide variations. Things like page numbers, reference sections, or graphics can be fixed in the back end and keep other elements in the front end easily editable, such as text boxes or spaces to add pictures. The Slide Master has already been set up with basic title boxes, graphic elements, page numbers, footers, and guidelines set up to aid with keeping things nice and tidy. We'll also go into further detail about the guideline grid in a later section. The type hierarchy has already been developed with a slide title, first level heading, second level, body type with 2-level bullets, and numbers with 2 levels. 2 font types have been chosen to complement each other, with Montserrat for headings and Segoy for body. A range of colours have also been developed as part of the master template for the Project Office. In the Slide Master function, there are 2 types of master slides, a parent slide and a child slide. All elements such as a background, page numbers, and text box for footers added to a parent slide will appear on all child slides. All graphical elements added to a child slide will sit on top of the elements added to the parent slide. Changes to an individual child slide will only affect that one child slide. If you'd like to make changes to a child slide, you can do this in Slide Master View. To add editable elements to your layouts, like headings and text boxes, use Insert Placeholder in the Slide Master drop-down menu. For fixed content that you'd like to keep on a slide and be uneditable, like a security classification, you can use the regular text, picture and shape insert options. All the child layouts that you created in the Slide Master view will be available to you in the front end using the Home tab, including the title slide, section break slides, and any other slides you may have developed. Now let's talk about the Alignment tool, which is an absolute game changer in PowerPoint. Knowing how to use this tool appropriately will save you a heap of time. This includes aligning objects on both horizontal and vertical planes. Now, selecting all the objects on the slide, we will first align them left along the vertical plane to its most left object. PowerPoint can also do this on the right vertical plane. Next, selecting all the objects on the slide, we will center align them to an aggregated center point of all the objects along the vertical plane. You can also do this on the center horizontal plane. Next, selecting all the objects on the slide, we will align them to the top along the horizontal plane at its topmost object. PowerPoint can also do this on the bottom horizontal plane. Now let's talk about the Distribution tool. This tool allows you to distribute objects either horizontally or vertically across an axis. Like the Alignment tool, this can also be life-changing and creates a way to quickly bring balance and unity to your work. selecting all the objects on the slide, we will distribute all the shapes along the horizontal planes. Next, selecting all the objects on the slide, we will distribute all the shapes along the vertical planes. Next, we'll look at the difference between aligning objects to the slide and aligning selected objects to other objects on the slide. First, with the Align to Slide option chosen, all selected objects will align to the side of the slide, be it left, right, top, bottom, or centre. Next, with the Align Selected Objects option chosen, all selected objects will align to the leftmost object, similarly to the right, top, bottom, and centre. Now let's look at the Merge tool. This tool can be found under the Format tab with 2 or more objects on the slide selected. This tool allows you to customize shapes to your liking. Let's look at the Union option, which helps merge the objects together into a single shape. The Combine option joins the objects together but removes the element where they overlap. The Fragment option breaks the selected objects up into their overlapping parts. The Intersect option keeps only the part where the shapes intersect or overlap. And finally, the Subtract option subtracts the second selected shape from the first selected shape. Now for a helpful shortcut to move shapes in a straight line across your page. Simply select the shape, hold Shift and drag it across. And if you're happy with the placement of a particular shape and wish to duplicate it quickly, you can select the shape, hold down Shift and Control key and drag it across. The master slide has a 12-column grid built in to guide the design of your slides. The possibilities of the grid are endless, as you can see from these examples. By using the 12-column grid, you can achieve balance and space in your slide design and display information in interesting and engaging ways. When creating your slides, don't forget there are many great resources that can help you add visual content. These will save you a lot of time and help keep your graphics consistent throughout the deck. This slide lists a few examples of good resources to look into. Having the visuals already created for you will give you more time to focus on the structure of the layout. You have now completed the slide documents for policy communication training. We encourage you to apply these tips and tricks when using PowerPoint to create visually compelling products. If you have any questions, please reach out to the team.